Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our webinar on ODT Rentals 10.0 today. We're going to hear from Darren Christopherson, our Product Development Manager, who's very involved in this product update. And I'll now hand the time over to Darren.
Thank you. A little blurb about myself. I've been with Open Door for 17, almost 18 years, working with rentals for the past 10 years and working with extensions and apps and Business Central for the last 8 years, pretty much since it started. So I'm fairly familiar with everything we're going to talk about today. So first of all, dispatch functionality is added in this version of rentals, and we'll go through that in detail because that's kind of the big thing that we're adding. We've also added an expanded price option, and we've also added rental approvals workflows based on standard Business Central workflows. So we'll glaze over those, but I'm going to go into dispatch in some detail. So we have the ability to plan loads, coordinate resources. We have multiple shipping addresses. You can have a shipping address and a return address per line. We've got some drag and drop resource scheduling tools and some trip planning tools and maps and that kind of thing. So we'll get right into it now and start working on our Business Central. And head back to my role center. First thing we're going to talk about as far as dispatch is some of the setup options that are available and are that must happen. In rental management setup, there's a new panel at the bottom for dispatch. Currently, there's 2 options for dispatch setup, off and on. We will have a third option, which is basic, which is a little bit less detail, but a lot of the same functionality. It's just the system does some of the functions for you. You don't have to do them yourself. We need to specify delivery number series and pickup number series because those are their own documents now. Standard number series functionality there. We have the ability to host manually or automatically. And I'll go over that, what the difference is a little later when we're actually running through the process. Now we can set up our dimensions and weight units in rental management setup and have that cascade across resources and units and that type of thing. And have the ability to convert from one dimension unit to another. So we have feet and meters and pounds and kilograms. And if somebody puts something in one unit, we can convert it to the other unit for showing on the documents. And then the rest of the fields, the business hours start and Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, that kind of thing is for the resource calendars. And we'll get into that a little bit more in detail in a minute. Next, we're going to look at setup on resources. Inside resources, we've added some views that separate out dispatch from standard things. So we've added some dispatch resource types, that being vehicle, drivers, assistance, and equipment. Okay, so inside here you can specify a truck has a dispatch resource type. A vehicle transport type is again a defined list that you can configure yourself of whatever type of vehicles you're going to use. And then you can see that the weight units and limits and that type of thing are available in here as well. Some make sense for different types of vehicles, while perhaps volume doesn't make sense for a flatbed. But it's all available through the resources, and we can view the different types through these views now. Drivers, obviously, are drivers of the vehicle. We have assistants that can be assigned to trips, and we also had equipment that can be assigned. Say there's a forklift that needs to go on a truck to unload pallets or something like that. We can create the equipment inside resources and assign that later on. I'll show you that. The last thing that we really need to set up is rental units. There's a new dispatch section for rental units where you can specify what the transport type should be. This is a fairly large unit. You might want to specify it should go on a flatbed. And then you can specify the weights of those units, and those weights will be used to calculate weights during the trips. And I'll show that in a little bit as well. And you can specify dimensions and that type of thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to get back into it, and we're going to start where we always start in rentals, which would be a contract. Now, I've set up a few contracts here to make this a little bit easier to process. So for this particular company, we've got 2 power shovels based out of East. I'm going to assign the ones. I don't know if you were on the last webinar we did, we showed this new drag and drop functionality where you can basically look at the availability. Now, this is a brand new company, everything's available, so it may not show what's already been assigned. But I'm going to go and use unit 2 and 3 for this demo. And then you can see back here, it's been assigned unit 2 and 3. The other thing that is new to dispatch that I'm going to show right now is job addresses and site addresses. These other 3 are standard in rentals, but site addresses and job addresses are new for this release. What a site address is it's just an address that's in the system that could use across anything. And you can assign site addresses to jobs. So that's kind of the difference. They're the same entity, but one has a job relationship and one is just sitting out there floating. And we're going to use one of those floating ones right now. So we've created an address in Florida. We're going to use that for this rental contract. The next one has similar, we have a couple of skid steers on there. I'm going to use a different multi-select functionality in here to assign these units. This is a sub-rental. I chose that on purpose so that we can return it to its vendor when we are returning things. And I'll say right now this is in East. So we'll pick that and the other one up at the same spot. I'm going to assign the same site address here so that we can see a trip is not necessarily per contract or per customer. It can be per destination. And we'll assign that. And then on the last one, same thing. We've got the availability calendar again. I'm going to assign those 2 using the drag and drop. Okay, they're both coming out of East, which is good. And you can see the other location is Maine for this one. So for this contract, we're not going to change the shipping address. We're going to leave it to the default, which is the company address or the customer address. And then we're going to set it ready for delivery. So this dispatch status, right, is also on the lines. You can pick and choose which ones you want to say is ready for dispatch, or setting it in the header, we'll set it for the lines. Right, now those are all ready to go. Do the same thing for the previous 2. And then we would be done what we would normally handle from the contract. It is possible to manage loads and do all that per contract, but I'm not going to show it today. That's kind of an easier way to run through things. I'm going to show the more complex version, and that uses our planning worksheet. You can see that there's 9 entries now in our planning worksheet from the 3 different contracts, 4, 5, and 6, right? If we look at the addresses, the ship to addresses are for that mine in Florida, and this one's for another location in Georgia. If we select the lines that we want to create loads for, you can use calculate or create. I'm going to use calculate. So here's the version that will calculate loads per location, which is what I want because I have multiple contracts shipping to the same location. I might as well throw that on the same truck. It is possible to calculate loads per customer, but because I've got 3 different customers, it would all be on different loads. I want to consolidate that one load. So I'm going to do that. So you can see it's created 2 dispatch loads, which is what we'd expect considering we have 2 destinations from these 9 entries. And now you can see that it's created 2 loads, delivery 1 and delivery 2. Okay. If I look up to delivery 1, you can see that I have no vehicle assigned and no driver assigned. I can select that here by using the lists, but I'm not going to because that would be too easy. I'm going to show you the more complex version, which allows you to use some of the drag and drop functionality that's available. Oops, I didn't need to search. That's right in under dispatch, under resource calendar. So now I can see I've got 2 trucks, 2 drivers, an assistant, and a forklift. If I go to the vehicles, let's assign vehicles first. I'm going to say that delivery 1, which is going to the mine, is going to require the bigger truck. So I'm going to say that's leaving at 8 o'clock. And I know truck B, this isn't very descriptive, but I know truck B is the flatbed. And I'm going to use the other one that's going to the other location in Georgia. It's going to leave at 11 o'clock in the cube van. If I switch my view over to drivers, now I can assign which driver is going to which one. So this is the delivery to the phosphate mine. I'm going to give that one there. I'm going to assign that one there. Now, if we go back into our delivery documents, you can see that it's assigned my drivers and my trucks. And now all I have to do is just release the load. And what releasing the load means is basically I'm done my resource planning and all that kind of stuff. I'm happy with the loads. It's going to go out the door and it's pretty much ready for the driver to do his part. You can see once I've assigned it, or once I've changed the status, it's dropped off this because I have a status filter up here to open. I'm going to do the same thing with the delivery 2 in the cube van. I'm going to release it. And now we're pretty much done the planning part. When we get back into our roll center, you can see I've got 2 outbound loads that have been released, right? So this is where a truck or a driver would pick up these loads. And you can see under trips, I've got 2 in progress, 2 today. This is basically the same view. If I look at a trip, it tells me what I'm loading and what I'm delivering. And if I look at the initial load, this says, okay, I'm picking up this generator at the main warehouse. And if I look at this one, it's saying, oh, I'm picking up a ton of stuff in the east warehouse. Okay. And then we're delivering it to the mine. And if I show on the map, it'll give me a nice little view of what's happening. So we're in Georgia, right? There's my first pickup. There's my second pickup. And then down in Florida is my drop off, right? Down at the phosphate mine. And we can, this is standard functionality. For the mapping, there is a setup that you have to go through in order to enable the maps. And that will be in the release notes, how to set that up. Once we go back out of the trips, the other trip is similar. This one's going to a different location. This one's going to that spot in Georgia, right? So pick up A, pick up B, drop off in C. If we head back to our release loads, once the driver has done their job, picked up the items, dropped them off, he can confirm deliver. Okay? All that does is basically say, yes, I've done my job, I've confirmed everything. For this one, I should note that it's possible you don't drop off everything that was expected. You can specify quantity not delivered, and then you can choose a reason code, which is a definable list. You decide what the reason codes could be, or you can just type in a comment. Okay, any comment as long will satisfy the problem or the requirement. In this case, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to confirm the delivery on everything. And now all of our release loads are gone, and you can see they're in confirmed loads. So now I'm going to talk about the difference between auto post and manual post. If I look at the confirmed loads, right, basically everything is done. All we need to do is post the delivery. And what posting the delivery will do is execute the shipment back on the rental contract. Okay, so the shipment was standard functionality, right? You shipped, you returned, you invoiced. Those are all functions on a rental contract. Okay, this will trigger that. Okay, and so once we post, it'll say shipment posted successfully. Because that was for 2, we skip confirmation. There's my other delivery. I'm going to do the same thing, post that. And so both of those posts have been confirmed and posted. And now if I come back and look at my contract, I've got everything is on rent and the status is delivery complete across all 3 contracts. Okay, so that's the delivery and shipment portion of it. Once it's ready, I'm going to change my work date. We're going to bounce ahead a month. We're going to pretend it's time for somebody to go and pick up those units. Okay, so I'm going to set it to 5/10. I know I have the rental return date on everything was set to a month. So I'm going to start back with the first one. Okay, everything here is fine. If I set my posting date to be my work date and set pickup. Okay, now this has been ready. Dispatch status is at pickup, and it's created the planning lines back over on the dispatch side. I'm going to do a couple different things here. I'm going to set the sub rental, and I'm going to show you the multi-address capability. So if I go to a specific line, I can look at addresses. Okay, so this was shipped from east to the south mine. And we're going to pick it up at the south mine, and we're going to return it not back to east, but I'm going to return it to a vendor. If I select temp location and then select vendor, it lets me choose from vendors, and then it'll return it back to this vendor, and then I can close my PO for that sub rental. So in this case, right, everything else that is our equipment is being returned to east, and this one is being returned to that vendor location. So now that I've set all that up, I can set that to pickup. And then same thing with this one. Again, oh, I guess I didn't use sub-rental on there. That's fine. So I'm going to return everything here to the same. Again, if I wanted to, actually, let's do that. I'm going to return this to not to east, I'm going to return it to main. And then we'll show you how you can just return to a different location if you wanted to. You can return it to, the options under temp are, you know, job site, a site address, a vendor alternate, or a location that's in your system. So there's quite a few options if you choose a temp location. In this case, I'm going to send it back to main, which is one of our standard locations for rentals. And then I'm going to say yes, update that. And we're going to just set that to pick up as well. All right, so now again, we're finished on the contract. Somebody else in the logistics or dispatch handling is going to go into the planning worksheet and go, okay, I got a whole bunch of pickups I need to figure out. I'm going to select them all, and I'm going to say calculate again per location. So 2 loads, and this time it's per pickup. Okay, so we've got 2 pickup documents, and because we are going to the 2 locations, South Mine and that customer's locations, it's created 2 documents for us. But as you can see, one's being returned to a vendor, worldwide importers, and this one's being taken to a different location than it was shipped from. It was shipped from East, we're returning it to Maine. Okay, so just like we did before, these documents are now ready to release. And then the next document, I'll release it as well. Okay, and then once again, we're going to have our trips. Oh, I released these. Okay, so now once we've done our trip, we can come back and confirm our pickup. And same thing with 002, I'll confirm that pickup as well. Okay, loads are gone. If I look at my confirmed loads now, I can come in here and post that. And again, this is going to post the return back on the rental contract following the standard rental functionality. So I'm going to post that. And I'm going to post the number 2, the completed loads. If we go back to the rental contract, the first 2 should be all completed. Everything is returned. And now the only thing that's left to do on this would be to invoice it. Same with the second one that had the sub-rental, right? The sub-rental has returned it to the vendor address, right? Worldwide importers. And now we can close that PO and invoice this as well using standard rentals functionality. Gone. So that's dispatch functionality, which showed multiple addresses per line, drag and drop resource scheduling, the trip planning tools being the mapping and the way to manage the weights and whatnot on the truck. Also in this release, like I mentioned earlier, we have an expanded fee pricing option called additional fees, and you can charge them by unit price or by a percentage of rental charges, and that can include metered usage charges, and you can configure the name to print whatever you want it to call it. We've got similar functionality called damage waiver right now, right? It works similar to damage waiver, but you can configure the name to be whatever you want, and basically it'll charge a percent or a flat rate on each unit that you set that up, and you set that up on the price card per unit. And the workflow. So this was something that was already available for standard Business Central entities like sales documents. We've extended it to be able to work on rentals. Again, configurable setup inside the workflow. We've created templates for rentals, for contracts and quotes. These are internal approvals based on a contract value. So it'll prevent you from basically sending the quote out until somebody internally has approved the quote is okay to send, right? Same thing with the quote, with the contract, right? You can't print it, you can't send anything, you can't invoice until it's been approved. And we have multi-level capabilities and delegate capabilities there. So if somebody's on holidays, we can delegate it to somebody else to approve. And that's based on the standard approval workflows in Business Central. Next release will have some additional features. One of the things we're working to put out in the next release, which would be 10.1, would be loss and damage. So if a rental unit comes back that is damaged, we can charge it back to the customer or charge the customer something from it. We're going to do some expanded attribute filtering when we're looking for items in calendars and views, and some reporting enhancements coming out in the next release as well. So I believe that is it for me. I'll send it back to Mindy.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was really informative. Thank you. Again, reminder, if you have any questions, please email us, hi@opendoorerp.com, and we will be happy to give you an answer. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.